Rachel Holt for NESN.com here with Adam Meyer of Fox Sports. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I know we're getting into the fantasy playoffs right now. People might have had, one of their rounds last week, and now we're getting into the potentially Final Four, getting people into those fantasy Super Bowls.
Week 15 is a big week, but let's recap some of the things that went on in Week 14. It was very interesting, especially with the fantasy quarterbacks. If you had guys like Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, you really didn't get those points that you were expecting, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. So for you, what was the biggest surprise with the quarterbacks in Week 14?
That's a great question. I know that, like you said, a lot of big disappointments last week. Probably Thursday night was a big disappointment, too, with people who had Derek Carr. That was a dreadful start to your week there. I mean, Amari Cooper had a rough start there. And, just looking at some of the quarterbacks, I mean, obviously Cam Newton struggled against San Diego. Carson Palmer was kind of a dud there. A lot of guys that you thought were going to come through, maybe even Kaepernick if you thought that he was going to come through there. Russell Wilson, huge letdown against Green Bay. So Philip Rivers against Carolina, the list goes on. But obviously, Tom Brady coming through for people on Monday Night Football is clutch.
Let's talk about Brady and the Patriots for a minute. The team put up big points against the Ravens Monday. Brady threw for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns in the victory. Next up, though, they take on the Broncos, who don't exactly have the easiest defense to go up against, even if you are Tom Brady. So, Adam, what are you expecting out of the Patriots offense in their upcoming games?
I would guarantee this is the question I'm going to get all week long is should I start Tom Brady against the Broncos? And for me as a Bronco fan, I have to say absolutely you have to start Tom Brady. He always steps up for these games. If you look last week against the Super Bowl winning Bronco defense in Week 12, Brady threw for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, he's not going to have Gronk. So it's going to, hinder his options a little bit. But we saw he did on Monday night. He has Hogan. He has Mitchell, who's emerging as a great option right now. Edelman's still getting his looks. Running back, it'd be a little bit more difficult for LeGarrette Blount to get his train rolling a little bit. But he'll still have, James White and Deion Lewis getting some looks as well. So I am not worried about Tom Brady at all. I'm going to have him as a top 5 quarterback when we release our Week 15 player rankings. And I'm going to say, unless you have, some ridiculous options, maybe, the Aaron Rodgers are facing the Bears or something like that. If you have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, though, you have an embarrassment of riches. But other than that, I'm probably going to say you got to start Tom Brady this week, regardless of it. He's matchup proof.
There were some key players that went down with injury this week, including Melvin Gordon, Matt Forte, Ryan Tannehill. However, this means opportunities for other guys. So getting someone off the waiver wire this week, of course, we want to focus on the guys we have on our roster if we are into the playoffs and work with what we've got. But if there are some guys to target or pick up this week in Week 15, who are you looking at?
Oh, absolutely. This is a crucial week for our waiver wire ads. If you remember from last season, this kind of is where David Johnson got his big boost. In Week 15, he rushed for 3 touchdowns and 187 yards last year. You also had guys like Alfred Blue for Houston, Rashad Jennings for the Giants. Darren McFadden was having his couple of good games for him for the Cowboys. And then obviously in Week 16, you had your Tim Hightowers and D'Angelo Williams. And again, Darren McFadden were a couple of your leaders. So these are going to be crucial weeks for adding running backs. You already mentioned Melvin Gordon's injury. While it would be nice to have him against the Raiders, in the first meeting, he rushed for 69 yards, caught an 18-yard pass for a touchdown. But even though they say he's day-to-day with his hip injury, I don't see him, making it for this game. That leads the way for Kenneth Farrow. I know with him, against the Panthers last week, 16 carries for 55 yards. He also was tremendous in the passing game, 6 catches for 23 yards. So in your PPR leagues, Farrow is going to be huge for you. So I think Kenneth Farrow, who's right now owned in only 1% of FoxSports.com leagues, I guarantee the number is going to jump to at least 30% for people who are still in the playoffs. I think that's going to be the top ad. You also mentioned Matt Forte. That was a big injury last week. facing the 49ers. Everyone thought he was going to have a huge game against San Francisco and their terrible run defense, but unfortunately he got injured early with the knee injury. Again, for him, doesn't sound like he's going to make it for this week either. You got the Jets, who I'm scrolling through right now. They're actually going to be hosting Miami, which isn't an easy defense on Saturday, but still it's options there for your running back. And I think that I'm looking at there, and I don't think that Bilal Powell is going to be as widely available as Kenneth Farrow, but I still think that Powell, who's only owned in 43.8% of leagues, is going to be a great addition. Obviously, he ran all over San Francisco last week, couple of touchdowns. I think he's going to be a great add as well if he is available in your league. So those are a couple of the main running backs I'm looking at for Week 15.
Okay, as far as the defenses who are going to do well in Week 15, who are you looking at to stream?
Oh, man, this is a huge streaming week for people. I know that the big one's probably going to be, Atlanta, if you can get your hands on them after last week's great game. They scored about 26 fantasy points against the Rams, 2 touchdowns, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions. They haven't allowed more than 20 points in a game in 2 of the past 3 weeks. I think with them facing San Francisco and Colin Kaepernick, that's going to be one of the most popular ads. Another good one's going to be Houston facing Jacksonville. Houston hasn't been tremendous in the point scoring department defensively. They haven't scored a touchdown really in the last 4 weeks on defense, but they're still causing a lot of turnovers. 2 interceptions last week, and then other than the Green Bay game, they had at least 1 turnover in the past 3 weeks. So I think Houston's going to be a popular addition as well. I think Houston and Atlanta, maybe Buffalo facing Cleveland. If you have Buffalo there, that's going to be your 3rd most popular option too. So those are 3 great ones to add for this week.
For those who play in daily fantasy sports like DraftKings, you're big in this. Who are you suggesting for this week? What are some tips and tricks for people?
I just mentioned the Bills. That's going to be huge this week. Bills facing the Browns. I think that whatever someone's facing the Browns, it's almost an automatic to start anyone on that team. I like Tyrod Taylor at 5,700 on DraftKings. He's only the 15th most expensive option at quarterback during the Sunday slate of games, which is ridiculously cheap. He scored at least 16 DraftKings points in 2 of the past 3 games. And Cleveland's allowed the 2nd most points to opposing quarterbacks, with allowing at least 2 passing touchdowns in 4 of the past 5 games. He's a great option. And someone you're going to want to pair up with Tyrod Taylor is Charles Clay, the new dad. He had a great 40-yard TD catch last week. The opposing tight ends are just destroying Cleveland. Tyler Eifert had a couple touchdowns last week. I think that Charles Clay is going to be a great add for you in DFS. Other couple options, I had mentioned how bad San Francisco's running game is in stopping the run. They face the Falcons this week. I think both Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman are going to be must-starts. I'm in a league where I might start them both and just enjoy the points. Just get racked up for them. I know Freeman had a rough game last week with only notching 6 carries for 6 yards against the Rams, but he scored at least 21 DraftKings points in 2 of the past 3 games. I think that's going to be a great start for you as well, and his price tag isn't that high. And then one other guy for the receivers, Tyreek Hill. Everyone's calling him Ty Freak Hill. He just seems to find the end zone. He's only 5,700 on DraftKings. They're facing Tennessee, who's been terrible against opposing wide receivers, and he's received at least 6 targets in 3 straight games and at least 20 DraftKings points in 4 of the past 7 games. Even as Jerry Maclin returns, I think Hill is going to be a must-start because they find ways to get in the ball, whether it's catching the ball, power return, kick return, rushing the ball. And I talked about how bad Tennessee's pass defense has been. Last week, both Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas surpassed 100 yards. And before that, Marquise Wilson of the Bears had 125 yards and a touchdown against Tennessee. So we already talked about, Denver's offense isn't that great. So for 2 receivers to break 100 yards and for Marquise Wilson, who had Matt Barkley at quarterback, breaking the 100-yard mark with a touchdown, I think that means Tyreek Hill's in for a huge game. So I think those are going to be some great ads for you in DraftKings.
Adam, this is all good stuff. We stress the importance of this week right from the get-go. This is a playoff week, so we need to win. Where can we find more from you throughout the week if we want to read up on anything else?
Always on Twitter is a good place to find me, at Fox Sports Meyer. And then obviously, you can go to my page on foxsports.com/fantasy. You look for the bios there, and we'll have all of our stories there. All the content for this week. On Wednesday, we have our player rankings for Week 15. On Sunday, we have a 3-hour chat where I'll host an hour, DJ Foster will host an hour, and John Halpin will host an hour. And we'll answer all your start-sit questions on Sunday and getting you ready, hopefully taking a lot of people to the Fantasy Championship.